Have you ever stopped to think about how you can catch a ball, feel the sun on your skin, and remember the lyrics to a song, all at the exact same time? Well, we're about to take a tour of the incredible electrical grid that makes all of that possible, your nervous system. We're going to start with the system's blueprint, zoom right down to the high-speed messengers, and then end our journey inside the command center itself, the brain. But first, just think about it for a second. The sheer managed chaos that's happening inside of you right now. You're breathing, your body is maintaining its posture, you're digesting your last meal, all at once without you thinking about any of it. This system is what keeps the whole thing from falling apart. So how on earth does it work? Well, the body has a really clever two-part solution. The one we're really going to focus on today is the neural system. Think of it like an express train. It uses electricity for instant point-to-point communication. It's incredibly fast. But it's also supported by the endocrine system, which is more like a slower freight train, using hormones in your blood for widespread, longer-lasting effects. Together, you get both split-second reactions and long-term stability. All right, so let's pop the hood on that express train. We're going to break down the organizational chart of the entire neural system, starting with the biggest, most fundamental divisions. Okay, the first and biggest split is based purely on location. Nice and simple. You've got the central nervous system, or CNS, and that's just the brain and the spinal cord. That's it. It's the command center. Then you have the peripheral nervous system, or PNS, which is basically everything else. It's the vast network of nerves, the wiring that connects central command to every single part of your body. Now, we can also divide all that wiring based on the direction of traffic. You've got afferent fibers, which are your sensory nerves. Think of these as the inbound lanes, carrying signals to the central nervous system. They're like status reports from the field. And then you have efferent fibers, the motor nerves. These are the outbound lanes, sending commands from the CNS out to the body, telling your muscles and glands what to do. And we can split it one more time, this time based on who's in charge. The somatic system is your voluntary network. It's what you use to consciously decide to move your arm or kick a ball. But the vast hidden majority of the work, that belongs to the autonomic nervous system, or ANS. This is the automatic pilot that runs the whole show behind the scenes, regulating your heart, your digestion, everything you never have to think about. And even that autonomic system has two divisions that act like co-pilots with opposite instructions, and they keep everything in this beautiful balance. The sympathetic division is your fight-or-flight response. It revs you up and prepares your body for action. Its counterpart, the parasympathetic division, is all about rest and digest. It calms you down, conserves energy. It's this constant push and pull that keeps your body stable and ready for anything. So that's the big system blueprint. Now let's zoom way in, down to the fundamental unit that makes it all work, the neuron. This is the high-speed messenger, and its anatomy is perfectly, beautifully designed for one thing: communication. Every neuron has a few key parts. You've got the cell body, or soma, which is the control center. Sprouting from it are these bushy little receivers called dendrites that collect signals. Then there's the one single long transmission line called the axon, which sends the signal away. And that axon ends in synaptic knobs, which are packed with chemical messengers, ready to pass the signal to the next cell in line. But here's the real secret to the nervous system's incredible speed: insulation. Many of those long axons are wrapped in a fatty layer called the myelin sheath. It's this simple insulating coat, formed by special cells, that allows signals to travel at absolutely mind-boggling speeds. So how does that work? Well, an axon without myelin is actually pretty slow. The electrical signal has to regenerate itself along every single bit of the membrane. It's like a slow, continuous wave. But myelin stops that. The insulation forces the signal to literally leap from one exposed gap in the sheath to the next. This jumping is called saltatory conduction, and it is a brilliant biological hack for speed. And the performance gain here is just staggering. A neuron with myelin can fire off a signal up to 50 times faster. That's the kind of speed you need for an instant reflex, for complex thought, or, for catching a ball without even having to think about it. Okay, so we've got the hardware, but what about the signal itself? How does that electrical spark, what we call the action potential, actually fire? It all happens in 4 key stages. First, the neuron is just sitting there in its resting state, like a tiny charged battery holding a negative charge. Then, A stimulus comes along and triggers depolarization. Gates fly open and positively charged sodium ions rush in, causing the internal charge to flip from negative all the way to positive. That massive spike is the signal. Immediately after, repolarization kicks in. The sodium gates slam shut and potassium gates open, letting positive potassium ions rush out, bringing the charge back down. And finally, a special pump gets to work restoring the original ion balance, getting the neuron all reset and ready to fire again. So the signal reaches the end of the line. Now what? The absolute fastest way to pass it on would be a direct electrical zap. But our bodies almost always use a slightly slower chemical handoff instead. And you have to ask, why? Well, the trade-off is speed for control. See, chemical signals can either excite or inhibit the next neuron. This allows the system to filter out noise, to weigh different inputs, and to make complex decisions, things a simple, direct wire just can't do. It's complexity over raw speed. Now that we've followed a single signal down a single wire, let's zoom all the way back out and look at where they all end up. It's time for a tour inside the control tower, the human brain. And before we even get to its functions, here's a wild fact for you. Your brain is heavy, about 1.8 kilograms, or almost 4 pounds. But it doesn't crush itself under its own weight because it's floating in something called cerebral spinal fluid. This buoyancy reduces its effective weight down to just 180 grams. It's an amazing natural hydraulic system that protects our most important organ. All right, let's start our tour at the top, in the forebrain. The most obvious part is the cerebrum, that big, wrinkly outer layer that handles all our higher thought, memory, and voluntary actions. Deeper inside, you've got the thalamus, which acts like a grand central station, sorting and routing almost all the sensory and motor signals. Just below that is the hypothalamus, the body's thermostat, controlling hunger, thirst, and temperature. And then there's the limbic system, the ancient core of our emotions and memories. Moving down, we get to the midbrain. It's a smaller but absolutely crucial region. This is what manages our instant reflexes. You know, when you automatically jerk your head toward a sudden flash of light or a loud noise before you even process what it was? Yep, that's your midbrain at work. And finally, we reach the hindbrain, the most ancient and vital part of the whole structure. It contains the cerebellum, which fine-tunes our balance and coordinates smooth, graceful movement. Then there's the pons, which is like a massive fiber highway connecting different brain regions, and it also helps out with breathing. But the most critical part here is the medulla oblongata. This is the non-negotiable, absolute control center for breathing, heart rate, and blood pressure. If this gets damaged, life stops, period. And when you hear scientists talking about the brainstem, they're referring to this indispensable trio working together as a single unit: the midbrain, the pons, and the medulla. This is the absolute foundation of our life support systems. So we end with this thought. The brain's architecture puts the systems for your balance, your coordination, and your fundamental rhythm of breathing all right next to each other, clustered together in one ancient protected structure. What does it say about survival that these three absolutely essential functions are all packed together like that? It's just a powerful reminder